The hunger that would not let go. The land lay silent beneath the grip of famine. Fields that once waved with grain now stood dry and helpless, and the people of Canaan felt the slow tightening of hunger. Jacob and his sons had already tasted relief once, when grain from Egypt had saved them from starvation. But the sacks were empty again, and the silence of the storehouses spoke more loudly than any words. Jacob watched his sons, knowing what must be done, yet fearing it with all his heart. Egypt stood between life and death, but Egypt had also demanded a price that seemed unbearable. Judah steps forward. Jacob told his sons that they must return to Egypt and buy more food. But Judah reminded him of the warning given by the powerful ruler of Egypt. That ruler had declared that the brothers would never see his face again unless they brought their youngest brother with them. Judah spoke not only as a son but as a leader. He explained that without Benjamin, the journey would be useless and dangerous. The Egyptian ruler would refuse them, and the family would starve. Jacob, wounded by loss and fear, asked why they had revealed that they had another brother at all. The sons explained that the ruler's questions had pressed them relentlessly, asking about their father, their family, and whether another brother existed. They had not known that their answers would lead to such peril. Judah then made a solemn promise. He took responsibility for Benjamin's life and offered himself as a guarantee. He pledged that if Benjamin did not return safely, the blame would rest on him forever. His words carried weight, born from guilt, growth, and a deep sense of duty. At last, Jacob yielded. A father's bitter blessing. Knowing resistance was useless, Jacob prepared his sons for the journey. He instructed them to take gifts from the land, rare and precious treasures that still remained despite the famine. Balm, honey, spices, myrrh, pistachio nuts, and almonds were gathered as offerings of peace. Jacob also told them to take double the money, returning the silver that had mysteriously appeared in their sacks before. He entrusted them to the mercy of God, praying that the ruler of Egypt would show compassion and release both Simeon and Benjamin. Though Jacob spoke with resolve, sorrow lay heavy beneath his words. He accepted that if he must lose his children, then so be it, trusting the outcome to God. The journey south. The brothers set out once more, carrying hope, fear, and responsibility with every step. Benjamin walked among them, unaware that his presence stirred memories long buried and emotions long restrained. When they reached Egypt, they stood again before Joseph, though they did not know him as their lost brother. Joseph saw Benjamin immediately, and something within him broke open. His heart recognized what his eyes had longed for. Joseph ordered his steward to bring the men into his house and prepare a feast. The brothers were filled with dread. They believed they were being led into a trap, fearing punishment for the silver found in their sacks before. Fear at the doorway. At the entrance of Joseph's house, the brothers spoke to the steward, explaining the mystery of the silver and insisting that they had brought it back along with additional payment. The steward responded with calm reassurance, telling them not to fear. He explained that their God had placed the treasure in their sacks and confirmed that Simeon was safe. Simeon was brought out to them, and the brothers felt a brief moment of relief. Water was provided for their feet, fodder for their donkeys, and preparations continued for the midday meal. Joseph and the hidden storm of emotion. When Joseph entered the house, the brothers presented their gifts and bowed low before him, fulfilling once more the dreams Joseph had long ago dreamed. Joseph asked about their father's well-being and whether he still lived. Upon hearing that Jacob was alive and well, Joseph was deeply moved. When he saw Benjamin, his mother's son, he asked whether this was the youngest brother spoken of. Joseph blessed Benjamin, but his emotions overwhelmed him. He left the room quickly, seeking privacy to weep. Tears flowed freely, Years of longing and pain released in secret. After washing his face and regaining control, Joseph returned and ordered the meal to begin. A feast full of mystery. The brothers were seated according to their birth order, from the oldest to the youngest. They stared at one another in astonishment, unable to understand how the Egyptian ruler knew their ages so precisely. Joseph arranged the meal with abundance. Benjamin received portions far greater than the others, a sign unnoticed in its meaning but heavy with purpose. Wine flowed, laughter rose, and for the first time in years, the brothers ate without hunger gnawing at their bellies, yet beneath the joy lay tension, for nothing in Egypt was ever accidental. Explanation and lessons of Genesis chapter 43. Genesis chapter 43 is a turning point in the story of Joseph and his brothers. It is a chapter filled with fear, growth, hidden mercy, and the slow unfolding of reconciliation. The famine forces the family to confront unresolved guilt and buried truths. Judah's transformation stands out as he moves from a brother who once suggested selling Joseph into slavery to a man willing to offer his own life for Benjamin. Jacob's role reveals the pain of a father shaped by loss, yet learning to surrender control. His reluctant trust in God shows faith refined through suffering. Joseph, though powerful, is portrayed as deeply human, struggling to balance justice, love, and restraint. The chapter teaches that reconciliation often requires risk, humility, and responsibility. True repentance is shown not only through words but through changed behavior. It also reminds readers that God's work often happens behind the scenes, even when fear dominates the present moment. Genesis 43 shows that what appears to be a threat can become a doorway to healing, and that even in famine, grace prepares a table where enemies may one day become family again.